Hello, it is I, Collie Mortwood, and this is Tuesday Tales of Terror, and I forgot it was Tuesday. So we are a little bit late. If you are watching the recorded video later, this obviously doesn't apply to you, so good on you. I was also thinking that instead of doing Facebook Live, that we could do a Zoom meeting, like a weekly, what's this, Zoom meeting. That's the same meeting and people can join every week. And maybe a little bit earlier, since I haven't actually done tango in a month now. Yes. So, let's read 3 Sundays in a week. I think that's the one that we should go with. On page 429. I do really wish that I would have brought a water up here before I decided to read. Let's see if I have one somewhere. Empty. Oh, confounded. All right, I can live without it. It's fine. Let's go. 3 Sundays in a week. You hard-hearted, dunder-headed, obstinate, rusty, crusty, musty, fusty, old savage, said I in fancy one afternoon to my grand uncle Rumgudgeon, shaking my fist at him in imagination. Only in imagination. The fact is, some trivial discrepancy did exist just then between what I said and what I had not the courage to say, between what I did and what I had half a mind to do. The old porpoise, as I opened the drawing-room door, was sitting with his feet upon the mantelpiece and a bumper of port in his paw, making strenuous efforts to accomplish the ditty. Rimpless ton vere vide, vide ton vere plein. I feel like we should know what this means. Let's look it up. Rimpless ton vere vide. Oh, so shaky. My goodness, we're all over the place. What? Stop it. Translation? Fill your empty glass. It's French. That's fun, isn't it? Fill your empty glass. Vire ton verre plein. Vire ton verre plein. Empty your full glass.
Vide ton verre plein.
En français, vide ton verre plein. Fill your empty glass, empty your full glass. I love it. How fun! What a fun little toast. Okay. Remplis ton verre vide, vide ton verre plein. Moving on. My dear uncle, said I, closing the door gently and approaching him with the blandest of smiles. You are always so very kind and considerate, and have evinced your benevolence in so very many ways, that I feel I have only to suggest this little point to you once more to make sure of your full acquiescence. Said he. Good boy. Go on. I'm sure, my dearest uncle, you confounded old rascal, that you have no design really, seriously, to oppose my union with Kate. This is merely a joke of yours. I know. How very pleasant you are at times. Said he. Curse you. Yes. To be sure. Of course, I knew you were jesting. Now, Uncle, all that Kate and myself wish at present is that you would oblige us with your advice as regards the time. You know, Uncle. In short, when will it be most convenient for yourself that the wedding shall come off, you know? Come off? You scoundrel. What do you mean by that? Better wait till it goes on. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's capital. Such a wit. But all we want just now, you know, Uncle, is that you would indicate the time precisely. Precisely. Yes, Uncle. That is, if it would be quite agreeable to yourself. Wouldn't it, answer Bobby, if I were to leave it at random? Some time within a year or so, for example? Must I say precisely? If you please, Uncle. Precisely. Well then, Bobby, my boy, you're a fine fellow, aren't you? Since you will have the exact time, I'll oblige you for once. Dear Uncle. Hush, sir, drowning my voice. I'll oblige you for once. You shall have my consent. And the plum, we mustn't forget the plum. Let me see, when shall it be? Today's Sunday, isn't it? Well, then you shall be married precisely. Precisely. Now mind, when 3 Sundays come together in a week. Do you hear me? What are you gaping at? I say you shall have Kate and her plum when 3 Sundays come together in a week. But not till then, you young scapegrace. Not till then, if I die for it. You know me, I'm a man of my word. Now be off. Here he swallowed his bumper of port, while I rushed from the room in despair. A very fine old English gentleman was my grand-uncle Rumgudgeon, but unlike him of the song, he had his weak points. He was a little, pursy, pompous, passionate, semicircular somebody with a red nose, a thick skull, a long purse, and a strong sense of his own consequence. With the best heart in the world, he contrived, through a predominant whim of contradiction, to earn for himself, among those who only knew him superficially, the character of a curmudgeon. Like many excellent people, he seemed possessed with a spirit of tantalization, which might easily, at a casual glance, have been mistaken for malevolence. To every request a positive "no" was his immediate answer, but in the end, in the long, long end, there were exceedingly few requests which he refused. Against all attacks upon his purse he made the most sturdy defence, but the amount extorted from him at last was, generally, in direct ratio with the length of the siege and the stubbornness of the resistance. In charity, no one gave more liberally or with a worse grace. For the fine arts, and especially for the belles lettres, he entertained a profound contempt. With this he had been inspired by Casimir Perier, whose pert little query, "À quoi un poète est-il bon?" he was in the habit of quoting with a very droll pronunciation as the ne plus ultra of logical wit. Thus my own inkling for the Muses had excited his entire displeasure. He assured me one day, when I asked him for a new copy of Horace, that the translation of Poeta nascitur non fit was a nasty poet for nothing fit, a remark which I took in high dudgeon. His repugnance to the humanities had also much increased of late, by an accidental bias in favor of what he supposed to be natural science. Somebody had accosted him in the street, making him for no less a personage than Dr. Double L.D., the lecturer upon quack physics. This set him off at a tangent, and just at the epoch of this story, for a story it is getting to be after all, my grand-uncle Rumgudgeon was accessible and pacific only upon points which happened to chime in with the caprioles of the hobby he was riding. Okay, did I say that correctly? There was a lot of words there that I was really confused about. Not a lot. I'm over-exaggerating. But I was curious about caprioles.
Capriole.
A movement performed in classical riding in which the horse leaps from the ground and kicks out with its hind legs. A leap or caper in dance, especially a cabriole. Okay, that's fun. All right. Thank you. I had lived with the old gentleman all my life. My parents, in dying, had bequeathed me to him as a rich legacy. I believe the old villain loved me as his own child, nearly if not quite as well as he loved Kate, but it was a dog's existence that led me after all. From my first year until my 5th, he obliged me with very regular floggings. From 5 to 15, he threatened me hourly with the House of Correction. From 15 to 20, not a day passed in which he did not promise to cut me off with a shilling. I was a sad dog, it is true, but then it was a part of my nature, a point of my faith. In Kate, however, I had a firm friend, and I knew it. She was a good girl, and told me very sweetly that I might have her, plum and all, whenever I could badger my grand-uncle Rumgudgeon into the necessary consent. Poor girl! She was barely 15, and without this consent, her little amount in the funds was not come atable until 5 immeasurable summers had dragged their slow length along. What then to do? At 15, or even at very much the same as 500. Oh, where are we? What? 15 at 21, for I had now passed my 5th Olympiad. 5 years in prospect are very much the same as 500. There we are. In vain we besieged the old gentleman with importunities. He was a pièce de résistance, as Messieurs Oud and Carême would say, which suited his perverse fancy to a T. It would have stiffed the indignation of Job himself to see how much like an old mouser he behaved to us 2 poor wretched little mice. In his heart he wished for nothing more ardently than our union. He had made up his mind to this all along. In fact, he would have given 10,000 pounds from his own pocket. Kate's plum was her own, if he could have invented anything like an excuse for complying with our very natural wishes. But then we had been so imprudent as to broach the subject ourselves. Not to oppose it under such circumstances, I sincerely believe was not in his power. Okay, so if you aren't completely following along, which I'm sure that you are, but if you aren't, our young sir lives with his uncle, has lived with him his whole life, and the uncle's daughter is Kate, and back in these times, of course, it's acceptable to marry your cousin. I suppose maybe they're second or third cousins. Who knows? It doesn't matter. Oh, granduncle. Right. Anyway, and he wants them to get married, but since he's a curmudgeon, Rumgudgeon the curmudgeon, he can't possibly say yes. Now, let's continue. I have said already that he had his weak points. But in speaking of these, I must not be understood as referring to his obstinacy, which was one of his strong points. Assurément, ce n'était pas sa foible. When I mention his weakness, I have no idea what it means. Don't ask me. We can look it up at the end if you're still curious. When I mention his weakness, I have allusion to a bizarre old womanish superstition which beset him. He was great in dreams, portents, and it jeunesse en of rigmarole. My goodness. He was excessively punctilious, too, upon small points of honor, and after his own fashion was a man of his word, beyond doubt. This was, in fact, one of his hobbies. The spirit of his vows he made no scruple of setting at naught, but the letter was a bond, inviolable. Now it was this latter peculiarity in his disposition in which Kate's ingenuity enabled us, one fine day, not long after our interview in the dining room, to take a very unexpected advantage. And having thus, in the fashion of all modern bards and orators, exhausted in prolegomena, I am so... In prolegomena, all the time at my command and nearly all the room at my disposal, I will sum up in a few words what constitutes the whole pith of the story. Here we go. Okay. It happened then, so the fates ordered it, that among the naval acquaintances of my betrothed were two gentlemen who had just set foot upon the shores of England after a year's absence, each in foreign travel. In company with these gentlemen, my cousin and I preconcertedly paid Uncle Rumgudgeon a visit on the afternoon of Sunday, October the 10th, just 3 weeks after the memorable decision which had so cruelly defeated our hopes. For about half an hour the conversation ran upon ordinary topics, but at last we contrived, quite naturally, to give it the following turn. Okay, so here we go. Captain Pratt. Well, I've been absent just 1 year. Just 1 year today, as I live. Let me see. Yes, this is October the 10th. You remember, Mr. Rumgudgeon, I called this day year to bid you goodbye. And by the way, it does seem something like a coincidence, does it not, that our friend Captain Smitherton here has been absent exactly a year also. A year today. Smitherton. Yes, just 1 year to a fraction. You will remember, Mr. Rumgudgeon, that I called with Captain Pratt on this very day last year to pay my parting respects. Uncle. Yes, I remember it very well. Very queer indeed, both of you gone just 1 year. Very strange coincidence indeed. Just what Dr. W.L.D. would nominate in extraordinary concurrence of events. Dr. Dub... Kate, interrupting. To be sure, Papa, it is something strange, but then Captain Pratt and Captain Smitherton didn't go altogether the same route, and that makes a difference, you know. Uncle. I don't know any such thing, you hussy. How should I? I think it only makes the matter more remarkable. Dr. L.D. Kate. Why, Papa, Captain Pratt went round Cape Horn, and Captain Smitherton doubled the Cape of Good Hope. Uncle. Precisely. The one went east, and the other went west, you jade, and they both have gone quite around the world. By the by, Dr. L.D. myself, hurriedly. Captain Pratt, you must come and spend the evening with us tomorrow. You and Smitherton. You can tell us about your voyage, and we'll have a game of whist and Pratt. Whist, my dear fellow, you forget. Tomorrow will be Sunday. Some other evening. Kate. Oh, no. Fie, Robert's not quite so bad as that. Today is Sunday. Uncle. To be sure. Pratt. I beg your pardons, but I can't be so much mistaken. I know tomorrow's Sunday because... Smitherton, much surprised. What are you all thinking about? Wasn't yesterday Sunday? I should like to know. All. Yesterday, indeed. You are out. Uncle, today's Sunday, I say, don't I know? Pratt. Oh, no. Tomorrow is Sunday. Smitherton. You're all mad, every one of you. I'm as positive that yesterday was Sunday as I am that I sit upon this chair. Kate, jumping up eagerly. I see it all, Papa. This is a judgment upon you, about you know what. Let me alone, and I'll explain it all in a minute. It's a very simple thing indeed. Captain Smitherton says that yesterday was Sunday. So it was. He's right. Cousin Bobby and Uncle and I say that today is Sunday. So it is. We are right. Captain Pratt maintains that tomorrow will be Sunday. So it will. He's right, too. The fact is we're all right, and thus 3 Sundays have come together in a week. Smitherton, after a pause. By the by, Pratt, Kate has us completely. What fools we two are! Mr. Rumgudgeon, the matter stands thus. The earth, you know, is 24,000 miles in circumference. Now this globe of the earth turns upon its own axis, revolves, spins round. These 24,000 miles of extent going from west to east in precisely 24 hours. Do you understand, Mr. Rumgudgeon? Uncle, to be sure, Dr. Dub. Smitherton, drowning his voice. Well, sir, that is at the rate of 1,000 miles per hour. Now why would Englishmen be talking in miles? Now suppose that I sail from this position 1,000 miles east. Of course, I anticipate the rising of the sun here at London by just 1 hour. I see the sun rise 1 hour before you do, proceeding in the same direction yet another 1,000 miles. I anticipate the rising by 2 hours, another 1,000, and I anticipate it by 3, and so on, until I go entirely round the globe and back to this spot, when having gone 24,000 miles east, I anticipate the rising of the London sun by no less than 24 hours. That is to say, I am a day in advance of your time. Understand, eh? Uncle. But double L.D. Smitherton, speaking very loud. Captain Pratt, on the contrary, when he sailed 1,000 miles west of this position, was an hour, and when he had sailed 24,000 miles west was 24 hours, or 1 day behind the time at London. Thus with me yesterday was Sunday, thus with you today is Sunday, and thus with Pratt tomorrow will be Sunday, and what is more, Mr. Rumgudgeon, it is positively clear that we are all right. For there can be no philosophical reason assigned why the idea of one of us should have preference over that of the other. Uncle. My eyes! Well, Kate. Well, Bobby. This is a judgment upon me, as you say, but I am a man of my word. Mark that. You shall have her, boy, plum and all, when you please. Done up, by Jove, 3 Sundays all in a row. I'll go and take double L.D.'s opinion upon that. Okay, that was really cute. And one of the first stories that didn't end in murder. So, continuing our tradition, we have about 6 minutes left. So, let us read a couple poems. Let's start just continuing in order then. 20. And if you've been with me since the beginning, you know that as much as I love poetry, I sometimes struggle with some of Poe's poems. So we'll see how we do this evening. Oh, what was that word we wanted to look up? Nope, it's too late. We're already past it. A dream. In visions of the dark night, I have dreamed of joy departed, but a waking dream of life and light hath left me broken-hearted. Ah! What is not a dream by day to him whose eyes are cast on things all around him with a ray turned back upon the past? That holy dream, while all the world were chiding, hath cheered me as a lovely beam, a lonely spirit guiding. When through that light, through storm and night, so trembled from afar, What could there be more purely bright in truth's day star? Okay, let's see. I liked it. I liked the beginning. The idea that you're kind of in this hazy dream because you're stuck in the past. So obviously, depression. The next poem is called The Happiest Day, The Happiest Hour. So let's see. The happiest day, the happiest hour, my seared and blighted heart hath known. The highest hope of pride and power I feel hath flown. Of power, said I, yes, such I ween, but they have vanished long, alas. The visions of my youth have been, but let them pass. And pride, what have I now with thee? Another brow may even inherit the venom thou hast poured upon me. Be still, my spirit. The happiest day, the happiest hour mine eyes shall see, have ever seen, the brightest glance of pride and power I feel have been. But were that hope of pride and power now offered with the pain even then I felt, that brightest hour, I would not live again. For on its wing was dark alloy, and as it fluttered, fell an essence powerful to destroy a soul that knew it well. I actually really liked that. I really enjoyed that. I thought that one was beautiful. It was speaking about as happy as he was when he was experiencing the pride and power of youth. He said that he wouldn't do it again because of how much it hurt. Do we have time for one more? We have time, I believe, for at least one more, perhaps two. Let's see if we can do it. The lake to blank. In spring of youth it was my lot to haunt of the wide world, a spot the which I could not love the less. So lovely was the loneliness of a wild lake with black rock bound and tall pines that towered around. But when the night had thrown her pall upon that spot, as upon all, and the mystic wind went by, murmuring in melody, then I would awake to the terror of the lone lake. Yet that terror was not fright, but with a tremulous delight, a feeling not the jeweled mind could teach or bribe me to define, nor love, although the love were thine. Death was in that poisonous wave, and in its gulf a fitting grave for him who thence could solace bring to his lone imagining, whose solitary soul could make an Eden of that dim lake. Oh, wow. Yes. Wow, that one was beautiful. I loved it. I loved it. Okay, let's finish really quickly with the Sonnet to Science. Ooh, close. We're just going to end up with that. There we go. Okay. Sonnet to Science. Science, true daughter of old time thou art, who alterest all things with thy peering eyes. Why preyest thou thus upon the poet's heart, vulture whose wings are dull realities? How should he love thee, or how deem thee wise, who wouldst not leave him in his wandering to seek for treasure in the jeweled skies, albeit he soared with an undaunted wing? Hast thou not dragged Diana from her car, and driven the Hamadryad from the wood to seek a shelter in some happier star? Hast thou not torn the Naiad from her flood, the elfin from the green grass, and from me the summer dream beneath the tamarind tree? Ah, tragic. how science is murdering imagination and magic and the belief in the beauty and the wonder in the world. But I feel like there's a perfect pairing of the two, science and magic. So anyway, that concludes our evening. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, if you were live, if you were waiting for me, I'm sorry. And I think I am going to start hosting these on Zoom every week. Yeah, so more people can join because there are people who don't have Facebooks. Okay, love you. Have a great evening, and see you next Tuesday for our episode 18 of Tuesday Tales of Terror. And as always, stay spooky.